Let's begin by offering our respects to ISKCON founder Acharya and our preeminent Shiksha Guru, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
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 Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Taru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Vya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Okay, so what did we see in the previous class? Which chapter are we on?
Chapter 15.
Chapter 15 titled
The Yoga of the Supreme Person.
Yoga of the Supreme Person. So in the beginning of this chapter, Lord Krishna is giving an analogy to explain the nature of the material world. So he compares the material world to what?
Here.
Material world is compared to
Pencil.
Banyan tree, imperishable banyan tree.
yes, an upside down banyan tree.
Banyan
isn't it?
tree.
So material world is a perverted reflection. No, it's not just a reflection, but is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So obviously, whatever is there in the original is there in the reflection. in the shadow. But so whatever is there in the spiritual world is there in the material world, but in the perverted form. In the spiritual world, it is pure. In the material world, it is perverted, contaminated. Just as how pure love exists in the spiritual world, here what exists is lust. So sometimes we mistake lust to be love, but then over a period of time, we realize how actually it was not love. So this analogy of banyan tree, Krishna is explaining in the initial verses here. And then in text 5, Krishna is talking about the surrendering process. The surrendering process. Who can understand that the nature of the material world and who can attain to the eternal kingdom? And then Krishna describes his abode. He says he is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by fire or electricity. And then he says those who reach it never return to this material world. Then Krishna goes on to explain about the potency of the mind. How powerful is the mind? So he says how the living entities in this conditioned world, the living entities in this material world are although they are the eternal fragmental parts of Krishna, because they are conditioned, because they have this material body, they are struggling very hard with what they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. So today we will start from shloka number 8. Who can read today?
I can read, Mataji.
Thank you, Jagrati. Let us hear the shloka.
शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयान्.
Translation. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Hare Krishna.
So how does a living entity, how does the jiva attain his next body? This is what Krishna is describing here. So what is Lord Krishna saying? The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to other. So because at the time of death, from the gross body, the soul leaves the gross body along with the subtle body. And the subtle body has our mind, intelligence, and false ego. So we are carrying the impressions on our mind of whatever we led in that lifetime. Those impressions are captured in our mind. So depending on what our thoughts are, what are the impressions on our mind, what is it that we are thinking, that determines our next body. So we are carrying the different conceptions from one body to another body. And this is the reason why you will see not all children are the same. Although all are means not all children at the time of birth, you can say now that all children, it's not the starting, the starting point of every person is not the same at birth. It's not the same at birth. There is no reason why you can explain why unless you don't accept reincarnation. There is no way one can explain why some child is born in a rich family, some child is born healthy, some child is born to educated, civilized parents, while on the other side, some children are born blind, born perhaps in the slum areas where it's hard to make ends meet, or some children are born with a disease. Sometimes children are born with a hole in the heart, some children are born with so many other health issues, born blind, deaf. So what is the reason? If everybody is starting off with a clean slate at the time of birth, then why is it that some of them have privileged births and some others do not have? So the only way to explain this is reincarnation. So here Krishna is saying that how we are carrying the different conceptions of life from one body to another. just as how the air carries aromas. Now, the air by itself does not have any aroma. But if the air is passing through a nice rose garden, it will carry the aroma of those fresh roses. But if the air is passing through a filthy, dirty sewage, then it will carry the aroma of that sewage, isn't it? So because the air is coming in touch with nice fragrance or something that's obnoxious, it is carrying the aroma of that. So in the same way, all the living entity, the jiva, the soul, is pure because we are coming in touch with material nature, because we are coming in touch with this material body. Therefore, we are also carrying the different conceptions. We may carry nice aromas if one is in the mode of goodness, but if one is leading an obnoxious life, doing all kinds of obnoxious things, then we will be carrying the dirty, filthy smell of a sewage, which is compared to the mode of ignorance and passion. So then Krishna says, thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So this is going on over and over and over again. See here in this picture. A boy is dancing before the deities of Radha Krishna. Here you can see he's in a temple and there is kirtan going on and they are dancing in front of the deities of Radha Krishna. The result of such devotional consciousness is that he is dancing with Krishna as a playmate in the Lord's spiritual abode. So here you can see, because he had this consciousness, the next body he has got is that of a spiritual body. He has attained the kingdom of God and there he is dancing with Krishna. In the next picture, you can see a man is offering charity to a Brahmana. Therefore, he has taken the body of a demigod and is enjoying heavenly delights. So here he is giving in charity. He is giving in charity to a Brahmana, to a devotee. So therefore, he is getting the body of a Devata and he is enjoying heavenly delights. So this top picture is in the mode of transcendental goodness in the Shuddha Sattva stage. The next is depicting a person who's in the mode of goodness, the mode of goodness, Sattva Guna. Then here we see mode of passion. A man is eating meat and other abominable foods. In his next life, he is seen in the body of a hog who eats anything and everything without discrimination. So if one person eats without discrimination, eat anything that moves, then he's going to get the body of a hog because the hog eats without discrimination. You don't need a human body in order to live life like this because human body is meant for tapasya. Human body is meant to realize God. So if we don't use the human body the way we are supposed to use it, then we will have to lose this precious human body and take the body of a hog in this case. Then mode of ignorance. A man is approaching a woman with lust. This bestial consciousness carries him to a dog's body. So if people are lusty, then they get the body of a dog because as a dog, he can engage in union with members of the opposite gender anywhere, everywhere, on the street, on the road, at any time. There are no restrictions. So for that, you don't need a human body. If this is what you want to enjoy, then you do it in the body of a dog. Why do you need the body of a human being? So like this, as Krishna said, that we are carrying the consciousness, just as how the air carries aromas. 9.
श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते.
Translation. The living entity, thus taking on another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Hare Krishna.
So the living entity takes another gross body. So he gets a certain ear, eye, tongue, nose. So he gets certain, that group of senses, which are grouped about the mind. So the mind is the place where the desires are stored. So just as how a magnet will attract iron, in the same way, the mind is attracting the next body. The desires that we have in our mind, the consciousness, that is going to attract our next body. And all the senses are going about doing that which the mind wants, If the mind is attracted to, let's say the mind is attracted to lusty desires, then the entity wants to see, hear, touch accordingly, taste accordingly, like that. So the whole thing depends on what is the consciousness, what is it that the mind wants. So all these senses are grouped about the mind, Krishna says. Our particular Sri Radhehari Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Mataji, I had a question about 8. You talked about consciousness carries a person to the different body, next body. But would that consciousness be called senses? Because I know subtle body is the one that carries the mind, intelligence, and soul ego to the different body, to the next body. But that's not senses, right? It is considered to be senses, but it's not senses. It's subtle body, correct? Consciousness, you mean here by subtle body, correct?
Yes.
It's not senses, right?
There are subtle senses, no? Subtle sense. Because see, when we have lusty desires, it is, see, when one, with the gross senses, we engage in gross activities. But when we are doing something, for example, when somebody is watching porn, so he may not be directly engaging in illicit sex, but in a subtle way, he is engaging in illicit sex. So you can use the word subtle there. Subtly, it is there in the mind as the impression of that gross activity.
Okay, in like one question, so senses are involved, but they are called subtle senses. Is that
Yes, in
right?
a subtle way.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yes. Can we proceed? Our particular body is formed around our mind's desires. If we desire to fly, to hang glide, for example, why undergo the tribulation of artificially attaching ourselves to wings? We can fly in the body of a high soaring hawk. If our life's desire is scuba diving, why go to the trouble of having to resurface to fill our air tanks? It's easier to become a fish. If our desire is to enjoy with the opposite sex, then it's easier to fulfill the desire in the body of a dog, where one can engage in the said activity even on the road. Why take the trouble to acquire a place for the same? So based on the mind's desire, a gross body is generated with its particular facility for pleasure. So what is it that we desire? What is it that is on our mind is what determines our next body.
उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः.
Translation. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Hare Krishna.
So who can understand? Who can understand this fact that one is carrying the impressions from the previous body to the next body, no? And that is what is determining our next destination. So Krishna says that the foolish cannot understand this. They cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of modes of material nature. So a foolish man will not be able to understand this. But who can understand this? One who is trained in knowledge with jnana chakshu, with the those eyes which are trained in knowledge. Only that kind of a person will be able to see this, will be able to understand this. So Krishna talks more about this in the upcoming verses.
यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितं यतन्तोऽप्यकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः.
Translation. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in the self realization can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. Hare Krishna.
So one who has that jnana chakshu, Krishna says, those transcendentalists, those who are self-realized, they can see this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place. So if we see and try to understand things from the material angle of vision, then we will never be able to understand. Then we start to question, oh, does God really exist? Oh, God is so unfair. Oh, what did this just born child do? Why is he suffering? No, uska karam to zero hai. No, people say that he has not done any bad karmas. This child is just born, so why is he suffering? So a person who does not have this jnana chakshu, he is not able to see from the eyes of knowledge. Those who are not self-realized, they cannot see what is taking place. Although they may try. How can such people try to understand? No, so how can they try to understand? Now Krishna will talk about how they can try to understand, because when such people can see the great manifestations of Krishna in matter, no, for example, when you see the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, etc., so these are manifestations of the Lord in matter. So you may not be able to, or one may not be able to understand Krishna. One may not be ready to accept Krishna. One may not be able to, one may not want to even accept that God exists. But one will not deny that, yes, we need the sun for our survival. If there was no sun, then living entities cannot survive, for example. No. So by seeing these manifestations of Krishna in material nature, then one can try to understand. So this is what Krishna is going to elaborate on in the upcoming verses.
यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भासयतेऽखिलम् यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकम्.
Translation. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes for me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. Hare Krishna.
So this is what Krishna is talking. If you can appreciate the splendor of the sun and the moon, then one can try to understand the glories of Krishna. So like that, such people can understand. So the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of the whole world. So just one sun, from time immemorial, is giving out heat and light and continues to give heat and light. And that one sun is removing the darkness of the whole world. So that splendor also comes from me, Krishna is saying. The splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also coming from me, Krishna says. Mamakam, from me.
गामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यहमोजसा पुष्णामि चौषधीः सर्वाः सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः.
Translation. I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Hare Krishna.
So how come such huge planets, such huge planets are floating in space? So Krishna is saying that they stay in orbit because of my energy. So Krishna is saying, I enter into each planet and by my energy, they stay in orbit. Then he says, I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So the vegetables, the fruits, they have juice, when we can extract the juice from the fruits and vegetables. So that juice is there in those vegetables because of the moon, That's it. I don't know if it's still followed nowadays, but previously, after Purnima, usually the farmers would prefer to cut the vegetables and the fruits and vegetables from in their farms, because after Purnima the fruits and vegetables would be very, very juicy, very, very ripe and juicy. Why? Because it's from the moon that they are getting the juice.
अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः प्राणापानसमायुक्तः पचाम्यन्नं चतुर्विधम्.
Translation: I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna says that he is the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. So just see, even we human beings think that I'm the controller. No, I'm the controller. I can do whatever I want. I'm a self-made man, and so many other things human beings claim. But we are not able to even digest the food that we eat. Even to digest that food also, we need Krishna. So Krishna is saying, I am the fire of digestion in the body of all living entities. Aham Vaishvanaro, he says. So this Lord, Vaishvanara, is the plenary portion of the digesting fire. So there is an entity, of course, an expansion of Krishna, who is in charge of our digestion also. When one of the samskaras that is done in Vaishnava culture is the Annaprasana samskara, which is when the child eats the first grain at 6 months. When the child is 6 months, the first grain is given to the child. Before that, the child is only on milk, no? Ideally only on mother's milk. So the first grain that is fed to the child, that time they do a ceremony and they invoke this god. They invoke Vaishnava Nara, so that he can preside and digest the foodstuff of the child, and the child will not have any digestive disorders. Many of the diseases are because of digestive disorders. So actually this Lord, he is invoked at that time of the Annaprasana ceremony. So Krishna is saying that he is the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff. So there are four kinds of foodstuff. See here, you can see in the picture how Krishna is the digestive fire of every living entity. So what are these four kinds of foodstuff? The four kinds of foodstuff are the foods that are swallowed, chewed, licked, and sucked. So foods can be divided into these four categories: foods that are swallowed, foods that are chewed, foods that are licked, and foods that are sucked. So what kind of foods are swallowed? What kind of foods we swallow?
Water, juices,
Food,
liquids,
water, juices, liquids, etc. Yes. Then what kind of foods we chew?
grains and vegetables,
Yes. What kind of foods we lick? What kind of foods we lick?
Ice cream.
Ice creams, very nice. Honey. What kind of foods we suck?
Ice.
Ice, very nice. Sugarcane, no? So like this, Krishna is saying that he digests the four kinds of food stuff.
सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम्.
Translation: I am seated in everyone's heart, and for me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna is saying, I am seated in everyone's heart. He is seated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma, as the super soul. And as a super soul, what are the three things that he does? He gives us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So what does he help us remember? He helps us remember the past good experiences. No, we have gone through some experiences, and he helps us remember those past good experiences so that we can connect to him. Now, for example, when they want to advertise, when there is an ad, sometimes they give out free samples. No, they give out free samples so that you can use it. And then when you go to a supermarket and you see that same product on sale, you remember, oh, I had used this before and it was nice. No, it was a good product. So then you want to purchase it. So like that, when he gives us remembrance of the past good experiences, then we want to indulge in it more. For example, that's the reason why when we engage in devotional service, we feel very happy and joyful. Immediately we can connect to a past experience in some lifetime, some good we may have done. And therefore, when we engage in devotional service, or even when we were in the spiritual world, we were engaged in devotional service. Even in the spiritual world, we are engaged in seva. No? So when we do devotional service here also in this lifetime, immediately we feel happiness. A happiness that has no equal to anything material in the world. You will not get that joy in anything material. No amount of money, no amount of fame, beauty, riches will give you that kind of happiness that you get when you engage in devotional service. So why? Because immediately the super soul is helping you remember the past good experiences. Then forgetfulness. So similarly, he makes us forget the past bad experiences. This is the reason why we do not remember our past lifetime. We don't remember. See, sometimes people say that, oh, it's not fair that I have to pay for the karma that I did in a previous lifetime, but I don't know what I did. So I have to pay for something that I don't know, But then Krishna is doing us a favor by helping us forget our past lifetime. Because imagine to handle the relationships of this lifetime itself is so challenging. Take care of your husband, wife, children in this lifetime. It's quite a responsibility. And if you have to take care of somebody who were your children, your husband, your wife, your in-laws, or your parents from a previous lifetime, then how we will go crazy, is it not? So somebody says that I was your son in the previous lifetime, and when I was newly born, you died and you left me. So now you have to take care of me in this lifetime. So we will go nuts. We'll go completely crazy. So he helps us forget that which is not necessary. It's actually Krishna's favor that he's helping us forget. And knowledge as the super soul, he is guiding us, giving us knowledge, always guiding us as to what is right and what is wrong. This is what we call as consciousness. When we feel bad when we do something bad. So that is the super soul who is guiding us from within. That's why the super soul is called as a Chaitya Guru. Chaitya Guru, the Guru who is guiding us from inside, internally. So the super soul has these three functions: knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Then what does Krishna go on to say? By all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the whole goal of learning Vedas, at the end of it, is that we should know Krishna. Who has to be known? It is Krishna. Krishna has to be known. And not only that, Krishna says that I am the compiler of the Vedanta. He's the compiler of the Vedanta. Now, what is Vedanta? Vedanta is a combination of two words, Veda plus Anta. So Vedanta means it is a conclusion of the Vedas. So the Vedanta was composed by Srila Vyasadeva. And Srila Vyasadeva is a literary incarnation of Krishna. So therefore Krishna is saying, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. So not only he is the compiler of Vedas, of the Vedanta, he is also the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna, of course, he knows the Vedas. So Krishna is both Vedanta Krit as well as Veda Vid. Vedanta Krit means he is the compiler of the Vedanta and he's also Veda Vid. He's the knower of the Vedas. Even if somebody claims that he knows the Vedas, even if there's somebody who says that I know the Vedas, nobody can claim that he's the compiler of the Vedanta. That is only Krishna. So this is a summary of these verses, how one can get knowledge by perceiving higher arrangement in material world. So at the cosmological level, when Krishna spoke about the splendor of the sun, then at the terrestrial level, how he's entering into each planet, and then at the physiological level, how he's a fire of digestion, and also at the spiritual level, how he's the super soul. So at the cosmological, terrestrial, physiological, and spiritual level, one can perceive the glories of Krishna by perceiving the higher arrangements in the material world. Now what we were going to say, 16, 17 and 18 is called as a 3 Shloki Gita. It is the essence of all Vedanta. So 3 Shloki Gita are these verses from 15th chapter, 16, 17 and 18. Let us see what Krishna has to say here. He's going to discuss Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Does anybody remember what is Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana from a previous class?
Sambandha is a relation.
Sambandha is the relation. So what is our relationship with God? Very nice. Then, what is Abhideya? Once we know what is our relationship with God, then what is it that we have to do with regard to that? That is Abhideya. And after we do what we have to do with regard to our relationship with God, then what is the result that we obtain? That is Prayojana. So what is our relationship with God? That we are eternal, His servants. Now, when we establish that sambandha, that relationship, that we are eternally the servants of God, what is it that we have to do? Obviously, a servant has to serve, isn't it? That's the duty of a servant. Servant means he has to serve. So one engages in services, one engages in devotional service to the Lord. And as a result of attaining devotional service to the Lord, what is it that we attain? What is the prayojana? What is the result of that? The result is that we develop love of God. Love of God. So this is Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. And this is what Krishna is going to explain in this 3-shloki Gita. Let us see.
द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते.
Translation. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Hare Krishna.
So Krishna is saying that all the living entities can be divided into two categories. What are they? The fallible and the infallible. Fallible means those who are conditioned, the conditioned living entities. They are the fallible, and the infallible ones are those living entities who are at the liberated state. They are not in the conditioned state. So those living entities who are in the spiritual world, they are the infallible. And in the material world, every living entity is fallible. So we have fallen down. We are in the conditioned state. Krishna is saying in the material world, every living entity is fallible. In the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. Yeah, Shri Radhe Hari Mataji.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
says in creation though. It says in creation there are two living entities, infallible and fallible. So in creation, meaning in this world, right? So this world is Mrityu Sansar. It's a kuntha. So those people who come here and they're liberated and they're infallible, so they don't change their body. It says in Bhagavad Gita, and they don't have a material body, right? They come with their original body and they go back with their original body. And then when they're staying here, they're infallible, so they're liberated. So my question is that, like a conditioned souls change their body. They have 6 types of changes, and then their body is material, and they are conditioned. They are not liberated, right? So in differences to that, like infallible, are they talking about the creation, like they are here in this created world? Because it says in the spiritual world they don't change their body, they don't go under 6 changes, but when they come to here in the creation, they don't change their body, and they don't have material body.
The living entities in the spiritual world, they do not have a material body. The living entities in the material world, they have a material body which undergoes 6 changes.
I'm only talking about infallible people. Infallible people in the creation. They're coming here in the creation, in the Maya Jagat. They're liberated. They don't change their bodies, right? And they don't have their bodies not made of matter. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says. That when they live in the spiritual world, their body doesn't change and their body is not made of matter. But when they come here in this Jagat.
So what do you think? Srila Prabhupada is fallible or infallible?
I think is
Infallible.
infallible, but he changes his body. His body is changed from old person to young person, and then he takes birth and that's just the body, but his soul is infallible.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, okay, you just answered my question. So people do come in this world and they live spiritually here, and they are infallible, meaning they don't change. They do change their body, and they are made of matter.
Okay,
Just
so
the
infallible means they do not fall down. There is no chance of them falling down. Infallible means they will not fall down. So Srila Prabhupada, externally speaking, he has a body that is growing old from the external angle of vision. But still, Srila Prabhupada is completely spiritual. There is no chance that a Mahabhagavat like Srila Prabhupada will fall down.
लेकिन उनका जो बाहर का शरीर है वो तो बदलता है ना.
Yeah, so that's what I said. Externally speaking, it appears that way. So yes, we can see Srila Prabhupada is growing old. But that doesn't mean that he is fallible. He is infallible because there is no chance of him falling down on the material platform.
Okay,
He is still completely spiritual.
so let me understand you. He's infallible because his soul is infallible because he can never fall down like conditioned souls can. But now, his body still changes because it's made of matter, and it has 6 changes. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much.
Okay, let's go to 17.
उत्तमः पुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मेत्युदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य बिभर्तव्यय ईश्वरः.
Translation. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. Hare Krishna.
So besides these two, which two? Just what Krishna mentioned in the previous verse, that there are 2 categories of people, the fallible and the infallible. So now Krishna is saying, besides these 2 entities, the fallible and the infallible, there is one who is greatest, who is above both of them. Who is that person? That greatest living personality is the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself. And that imperishable Lord has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. So he is maintaining. So that super soul, that supreme soul is above both the fallible and the infallible living entities. That supreme soul has entered the 3 worlds. So what are these 3 worlds? Higher planetary systems, middle planetary systems, and lower planetary systems. So we know in our universe, we have 14 planetary systems. So they are called the 3 worlds. 3 worlds, higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. So that's why it's called 3 worlds. So that Supreme Lord has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. We know that the super soul enters into the heart of every living entity. Now, who is that Supreme Soul? Who is that Supreme Soul? That Krishna answers in the next verse.
यस्माक्षरमतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रथितः पुरुषोत्तमः.
Translation. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. Hare Krishna.
So who is that Supreme Person? Krishna is saying, I am that Supreme Person. See, there are so many faiths, and many times they refer to the Lord as Paramatma. But who is that Paramatma? That they do not know. That they do not know. So here Krishna is very clearly saying that Paramatma, that Supreme Person is me. Is me, he is saying. So Krishna is saying, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible. So Krishna is, of course, beyond the fallible and the infallible. And because I am the greatest, so there is nobody greater than Krishna. There is nobody equal to Krishna. I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. So in this 3 Shloki Gita, what did Krishna first say? That there are 2 categories of beings, the fallible and the infallible. Then he said, beyond the fallible and infallible, there is one Supreme Person, one Supreme Person. And then in 18, he says, that Supreme Person is me. So this is the 3 Shloki Gita. Obviously, when we know that that Supreme Person is Krishna, and we are subordinate to him, then we are establishing our relationship with him. When we establish our relationship with him, then obviously we are servants, we understand that, and then we have to serve. So here Krishna is saying that he is the Purushottam. He is not only he is not only the super soul, he is not only the Paramatma, he is also the Purushottama. Remember, the title of this chapter is Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the supreme person. So here Krishna is saying that that super soul, that Paramatma, that Purushottam is me. 19.
यो मामेवमसम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमम् स सर्वविद्भजति मां सर्वभावेन भारत.
Translation: Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Hare Krishna.
So previously Krishna established a Sambandha, now he is talking about Abhideya. So therefore what Krishna is saying, after knowing Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead, without doubting he is a knower of everything. So once you know Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead, there is nothing more further needed to be known. You know everything that you need to know to take you back home, back to Godhead. So beyond Krishna, there is nothing more known to be known. So after you know that, then that such a person engages himself in full devotional service. So Abhideya. What do we do after we know this? Abhideya. We engage in full devotional service to Krishna. So here you can see how he is engaging in devotional service to Krishna. The last verse of this chapter.
इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदमुक्तं मया नघ एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत. ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे पुरुषोत्तमयोगो नाम पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः.
Translation: This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Hare Krishna.
So this is the most confidential part of Vedic scriptures. What is the most confidential part of Vedic scriptures? What is that Krishna has just said?
One who understands Krishna.
One who understands that Krishna is Purushottam. One who understands that Krishna is Paramatma and Purushottam. Then
Krishna has also said that he is the ultimate.
Then he
There
doesn't have
was
to
no
do
one.
anything else.
There's no one greater than him.
okay, and then so therefore what does one do?
Service, unalloyed service to Krishna.
Here Krishna says, is it not? He said here, one who knows me as a supreme personality of Godhead engages himself in full devotional service to me. So this is the most confidential part of the Vedas. Not everyone knows this. This we come to know only when we read the scriptures, the Shastra. Otherwise, there are so many misconceptions and there is so much confusion. But Krishna is not leaving any doubts. Very clearly, he is stating that he is the supreme person and that we have to engage in devotional service to him. So Krishna is saying this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. Then he says, "O sinless one." So he is referring to Arjuna as sinless. What name of Arjuna means that he is sinless? You can see it in the shloka.
Mataji, what is your question? Guhyatam?
Anaga.
What name of Arjuna means that he is sinless?
Anaga.
Anaga, yes, Anaga. So he is referring to Arjuna here as Anaga. No, he says, "O sinless one, it is disclosed now by me." Now, why is he referring to Arjuna as sinless here? Is because to understand Krishna, one should be free of sin. One has to be free of sin. So because Arjuna is free of sin, he is referred to here as Anaga, and he can understand this. He can understand this. So whoever understands this will become, what are the results that one obtains by understanding this? Krishna says that such a person will become wise and his endeavors will know perfection. So one will attain perfection and one will become wise. This is the result of knowing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as both Purushottam as well as the Paramatma. Then we can attain perfection and we can become wise. So first we have to make ourselves completely free of sins. Only then we can engage in devotional service and only then we can understand Krishna.
No, both in hand.
We can start off devotional service. No rules, no regulations. Anyone, anywhere, anytime, any place. No, there is no condition. So one can engage in bhakti. Whoever one may be, wherever one may be, under any circumstances one may be, anyone can engage in bhakti. So as we engage in bhakti, automatically our propensities to not engage in sinful activities will go. No, it will reduce automatically until it comes to zero. So because bhakti does not only remove, bhakti does not only teach us not to engage in sinful activities, it even removes the propensity, even the temptations, no, because it clears our mind also. So even that temptation or the thoughts or even a thought to harm someone will not come to us. The process of devotional service is so potent and so powerful, so potent and so powerful. See, one may think that, oh, I want to hit that person out of some enmity, but may not actually do it, may refrain because he says, okay, I will be legally implicated. No. But then what devotional service does is it even removes such thoughts from your mind. Even that propensity to commit sin will be removed. That such is the potency of devotional service. Such is the potency of devotional. So like this, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we have come to the end of chapter number 15. When I shared the slides in the group, you can read these chapter summaries. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Does anybody have any question or comment from chapter 15?
Mataji, I have a question, but it's regarding the test. When we submit our test and we don't get the results, only after everybody is submitted, we get the results, right?
After the due date, you will get the results.
Okay.
Irrespective of whether everybody has submitted or no. When the due date is passed, then you will get your results.
Okay.
So what's the question? Is
Like,
that what?
yeah,
Is that your question?
my question was like, you can get your scores like beforehand. I mean,
No.
already आपने दे दिया है, अब क्या करेंगे? लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि जब हम दे देते हैं तो वो दूसरों को भी रिवील कर देता है आंसर्स, तभी नहीं होता ना, तभी you can give the only on the date you can give. Just because
I
of
don't
that,
understand your question.
when someone submits a test and they don't get the results and they get the results only the date that is considered before, you cannot give the results because when you give the before results, everybody can see the answers. That's why.
Oh, you want to know why you cannot see the answers before the due date? Is that your question?
Oh my God, such a complicated.
See, the system on formatives is set in such a way that the results will be revealed only when everybody else has submitted. Because what happens is, if you give your exam on the first day, you already know what are the right answers and what are the wrong answers. And you can discuss the answers with somebody else in the group when others have not submitted. So there are people who are communicating between themselves. So we have to respect the fact that when the due date is there, then only we can reveal the results to everybody else. Everybody.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
how
but,
it is in schools and colleges, is it not?
yeah, but I won't do that. That's foolish.
No, that's okay, but we cannot remove the setting on formatives for one person, right? It's something that is set for the whole exam. The whole structure of the exam is set like that. It's not individual for this one like this, that one like that. We cannot do that.
Thank you then.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So let us see the Falashruti at least of chapter 16. So chapter 16 is titled The Divine and Demoniac Natures. It has 24 verses. And we saw in chapter 15 how Krishna is describing the perverted tree of material existence. So in that inverted tree of material existence, on top we have people who are in the mode of what? Goodness, passion, or ignorance?
Goodness.
Goodness, isn't it? Goodness. So they are almost close to perfection, no? So they are right there, just ready to take the next step and go to the spiritual world. Then below that we have people who are in the mode of
Uh,
Passion.
passion.
And below that we have people in the mode of
Intolerance.
ignorance.
Ignorance. Yeah, ignorance.
So what is the nature of those people who are in the upper part of the tree of material existence? No. So those are people with divine natures. And those who are in the rock bottom of the tree of material existence are those who have demoniac natures. So this is what Krishna is going to explain in chapter number 16, the divine and demoniac natures. So this is the title of chapter number 16. But of course, we need to know why we should learn, read, recite, understand this particular chapter. So the Falashruti of chapter number 16, as described by Lord Shiva to Goddess Parvati in a book called, what's the name of the book?
Padma Purana.
Yeah, Padma Purana is a conversation between
Shiva and Parvati.
No, Vishnu and Narayan, Vishnu and Lakshmi.
Yes. So Padma Purana is a conversation between Lord Vishnu and Goddess Lakshmi. And then there is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, and that is titled as
Gita Mahatmya.
Gita Mahatmya. Yes, very nice. So how many chapters in Gita Mahatmya?
18.
18.
18. How many chapters in Bhagavad Gita?
18.
18. So okay. So chapter number 16 of Gita Mahatmya is glorifying chapter number 16 of Bhagavad Gita. So what is a Falashruti? So Lord Shiva is saying that in Gujarat, there is a town called Saurashtra. So Saurashtra is modern day, which city?
Gujarat.
Gujarat state, city?
Surat.
Surat, yes, Surat. So in Gujarat, in a town called Saurashtra, which is modern day Surat, there was a king called Khadga Bahu. And he lived very, very opulently, just like another King Indra. So we know King Indra is the king of heaven, and he is living in a lot of opulence. So this King Khadga Bahu is living in Saurashtra, just like he's another Indra. And he had a very passionate male elephant called Ari Mardana. And from the temples of that elephant, a liquid would ooze out because of his pride. So this elephant was very, 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 very proud. And out of his pride, it is described that there would be a liquid that is oozing out of his temples. So once in a fit of anger, he broke loose from his chains and started to chase the citizens of the kingdom of Khadgabahu. And people ran as fast as they could in order to avoid him because they were scared that the elephant would trample them. Now, the elephant keepers immediately reported the matter to the king. So a king, he's responsible for anything that happens in his kingdom. So obviously the elephant keepers, they go and report this to the king. And the king immediately goes to the spot where the elephant was running crazy along with his son. And he saw that many people had been trampled by this elephant. So this elephant has gone completely crazy, completely mad, and he has already killed many citizens. And as the king was seeing this, he suddenly saw that there was a Brahmana who was peacefully returning from a lake after his bath. And he was silently reciting the first 3 shlokas of the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this Brahmana, he started to walk straight towards the elephant. And people told him, do not go near the elephant. You may be killed by that elephant. That elephant has completely gone crazy. But then the Brahmana was completely fearless. And he walked straight up to that elephant. What was the name of the elephant? Who remembers?
Gajendra.
No. The elephant's name was Arimardana. Arimardana. Okay. So this Brahmana walks up straight to Arimardana and starts to stroke him. The elephant lost all anger and lay down peacefully. Everyone was shocked to see what has just happened, including the king. So now what happens? The king approaches this Brahmana and asks him. So he asks him, what austerities have you done? What austerities have you performed to attain such peacefulness, such peacefulness? So the Brahmana said, every day I recite some shlokas from the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Now the king requested Brahmana, please come to the palace. The Brahmana goes to the palace, and then the king offered him 100 gold coins. He gave it to the Brahmana in charity, and he requested him to teach those verses from the 16th chapter to him. Then the king also has learned these particular shlokas from this Brahmana. And now the king started to chant those verses for some time. And one day, the king himself went to the place where the mad elephant was and ordered that he should be released. Now the citizens were upset that again, now the king wants us to set the elephant free and again he will run amok, again he will kill people. But then the king said that, set the elephant free. Then the king went to the elephant and the elephant immediately laid down and the king started to stroke the elephant. After that, the king returned to the palace. He installed his son as the king and left for the forest where he worshipped the Lord by chanting shlokas from the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and quickly attained the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. So what is the Falashruti? Anyone who chants the 16th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, however sinful he is, very quickly attains the same goal as King Khadgabahu, the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. So this is the benefit of reading, reciting, learning this particular chapter. So let us see the connections between 15 and 16. Chapter 15 describes the banyan tree of the material world. The modes of material nature nourish both the upper auspicious divine branches of the tree and the lower demoniac branches. Extra roots of the banyan tree were also compared to the activities of the living entities, some auspicious and some inauspicious. Chapter 16 explains the divine qualities that elevate one on the tree and ultimately leads one to perfection. Chapter 16 also describes the demoniac qualities and the mentality which drives one lower on the tree and ultimately to hell. So what are the qualities? So those who are in the upper branches, they have divine qualities. Those who are in the lower branches, they have demoniac qualities. But if one can develop divine qualities, one can go from the lower branches to the higher branches. And if one is on the higher branches and then develops demoniac qualities, then he will go from higher to the lower branches. So what are the qualities that can elevate one? And what are the qualities that can lead one to degradation? So connection between 15 and 16. In the 15th chapter, Krishna introduces the metaphor of the upside down tree for representing material existence and describes the process of breaking free from that tree, that is gaining liberation. Implicitly continuing that tree metaphor in the 16th chapter, he describes qualities of people at the two extremes of the tree. He first explains the divine qualities that elevate one on the tree and enable progress on the path of liberation. That is the first three shlokas of the chapter. And then the demoniac qualities and mentality which drive one lower on the tree and ultimately to hell. That is from shloka 4 to 21. So only the first three shlokas, Krishna is talking about divine qualities. And then from 4 to 21, Krishna is talking about the demoniac qualities. So many shlokas are dedicated to demoniac qualities. Not only do the demoniac become increasingly entangled, they also spread disorder, disaster, and distress in the world, thus making it hellish by their exploitative actions. When Krishna outlines the demoniac mentality, it strikingly resembles Duryodhana's mentality: constant scheming for wealth, eagerness to kill rivals, devilish pride in the success of one's murderous schemes. Through these descriptions, Krishna indirectly reminds Arjuna of the importance of his divine nature and his Kshatriya duty therein, both of which require him to protect the world from such demoniac rulers. Given Krishna's purpose of activating the protector within Arjuna, he describes the horrors of the demonic nature over 18 verses, after summarizing the divine nature in just 3 verses. So this is why Krishna is elaborating on the divine and demoniac qualities, so that Arjuna's protective nature can be activated, and he can see what would be the effects if a demoniac person like Duryodhan is going to be crowned king. It will create so much chaos in the society for several generations and several years to come in the future. So this is the reason why Krishna is talking about divine and demoniac natures. So this chapter is divided into 4 sections. The first section, transcendental and demoniac nature. So the first 3 shlokas are clubbed together in this chapter, and Krishna is talking about the divine natures. But this we will see in the next class if Krishna so sanctions. Okay, so in the next class, we will immediately start with the first shloka of chapter number 16. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for a very beautiful class. I have a question, like for Jamnashtami, I know we are supposed to fast and break at midnight, but do we eat Ekadashi Prasad or can we eat grains?
Okay, so the GBC undertaking is, the GBC has given this order to all the ISKCON temples that you can cook the prasad according to your circumstances. According to your circumstances. So if you are going to a temple, your local authorities are serving grain prasad, then the GBC says you can have that, because every temple is cooking prasad for the devotees according to their circumstances. So, but if you are not going to the temple, then you can choose what is suitable to your circumstances. If you feel that you can have non-grain prasad, Ekadasi prasad, then you have Ekadasi prasad. In my case, I have whatever the temple serves me. See, we have to understand that we are devotees and we are under our temples, they are our administrators, right? That's the administration of the temple. And the temples are under the GBC rule. And Srila Prabhupada has, we know that the GBC is the ultimate authority in ISKCON. The GBC is the ultimate authority in ISKCON. So the GBC has given the authority to the temple to decide. And that temple is your higher authority. You just follow the instruction of your authority.
Yeah,
But
see,
if you are not going to the temple, and you're going to break your fast at home at 12 midnight, then you can, and if you can, if your health permits, after fasting till 12 midnight, if you can have non-grain Ekadasi prasad, then that's the best. But if you can't do it because of health reasons, then you do what you can according to your circumstances.
Okay, so what about, okay, like if you have to take medicines, right? So can we like take it before sunrise? Or can we take it during the day with water and not eat anything?
So if the medicines are life-saving medicines that you cannot do without for one day, then you'll have to take it much before sunrise when it's completely pitch dark, maybe around 3, 4 in the morning. But if you can do without it, then better to do without it. If sometimes there are medicines that are just for vitamins or hemoglobin and things like that, then there's nothing will affect you in one day. But if there are some life-saving medicines that can affect your, I don't know, blood pressure or diabetes or something like that, then you can take it before sunrise, much before sunrise. See, ideally, Janmashtami fast means the previous day you have your dinner, right? You have your dinner, and then it's not in the spirit of the Shastra to get up again at 2, 3 in the morning and eat something. I know you're talking about medicines. You're talking about medicines, but I'm talking about food because sometimes this tendency is there that they'll get up at 2 or 3 in the morning to eat something because next day is a fasting day. But it's not in the spirit of the Shastra to fast like this, because still the mentality is I want to eat, I want to eat. So you have your dinner the previous day, and then when you get up next day, you fast till 12 midnight because that's when Krishna appeared.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just asking for medicines because I have thyroid, so I have to take that medicine.
Yeah, okay. So if it's thyroid and it's serious, then you can take it like that, because I don't know what are the implications of not taking a thyroid medicine for one day. I don't know. So you have to see how serious it is and decide accordingly.
It's funny, I have 2 temples, maybe an hour, like an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, 40 minutes from my home. But for Balaram Jayanti, when I went, I didn't know they said because Guru Tattva, you only eat Ekadashi Prasadam. But then at the
Oh,
same time, at the other the temple, they had normal food. And I didn't know
exactly. So
that.
that's why, yeah, because the GBC undertaking is such that the temple can, because sometimes in some temples it's not possible to make Ekadasi Prasad for so many factors. Sometimes there are lack of people who can do the seva. No, sometimes there are not so many qualified cooks who can cook. Ekadasi feast is not easy. It's also more expensive. No, Ekadasi food is more expensive. So there are so many factors at temple. So the GBC has left it to the temple to decide. And what I do if I'm in the temple, because the temple is my authority and that authority is under the GBC, I eat whatever the temple offers me.
Okay. So another thing I want to ask you, if someone is not Dikshit yet, can they like volunteer and work in the kitchen temple and cook or no?
Yeah, you can cut and chop and wash and clean the dishes, that you can do. But usually in the one who cooks, the one who is actually cooking, using the fire and putting the stuff
Yeah.
in the pot to cook, one who's using the fire, that person usually at least should be initiated. Sometimes some temples say that they should be second initiates, and some temples say that, okay, if they are just following the 4 regulative principles, that is sufficient. So that again depends on your local authorities. What is the standard that your local temple authorities have set?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? I think Divya had her hand raised before.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Next day we celebrate Prabhupada's appearance, right?
Yes, next day of Janmashtami is Prabhupada's appearance day. That's right.
So
So on
again we
Janmashtami,
fast
we
till,
break the fast after 12 midnight, and then next day till 12 noon again we fast.
so we eat at 12 midnight, whatever we get in the as prasad in the temple or house. Then again till 12 noon, and after that you can eat whatever you want.
Yes, yes,
And that can be Ekadasi or non-Ekadasi food, right?
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then you have a 1 day gap, and then after that again it's Ekadasi fasting.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, because Ashtami, then comes Navami, then the 10th day you have 1 day gap, and then again it's Ekadasi.
So which day is Ekadasi now? This week? Coming week?
Thursday is Ekadasi in Chile.
Thursday is Ekadasi. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else we need to discuss? I was actually yesterday I saw one. I'm not able to get that reference now. Give me a minute. Let me see if I can find it. I saw a PDF which was talking about the glories of Janmashtami fasting. It is equal to 20 lakh, if I'm not mistaken. That shloka said it is equal to 20 lakh Ekadasi fasts. One Janmashtami fast is equal to 20 lakh Ekadasi fasts. I will try to search for the PDF and I will share it in the group if I can find it. I just saw it yesterday. I stored it somewhere, but now I stored it so well that I'm not able to find it. So if I find it, I will share it in the group. Okay, so yes, Ekadasi fasting is very, very auspicious, and Janmashtami is also very, very auspicious. Janmashtami, I think of all the fasts, it's the most difficult. We go up till 12 midnight without food and water. If you cannot fast without food and water for a health reason, then you can drink water. If you still have a health reason and you have to eat something, then you can have some fruits. So really depending on your health, if your health permits, never compromise on your health. Health comes number one, then comes personal sadhana. If you don't have health, you cannot do personal sadhana. So seeing your health situation, you can fast accordingly. Yeah, Divya, you have a question?
Yeah, that day you said that Radha Ashtami is a bigger festival than Janmashtami. Why is it so?
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada said that the big festival is Radha Ashtami. Janmashtami is an indication, a reminder that Radha Ashtami is coming soon. Because see, Krishna is Madana Mohana. Srimati Radharani is Madana Mohana Mohini. No, Krishna is the attractor of thousands of cupids. But Srimati Radharani is that personality who is the attractor of that personality, who is the attractor of thousands of cupids. So wherever, if you see also Srimati Radharani and Krishna Murtis, you see Krishna is busy he's just playing his flute. He's busy playing his flute. Who's the one who's blessing you there? It's Srimati Radharani who's in that blessing posture, isn't it? So Srimati Radharani is more important than Sri Krishna. Even if you see the Shastras, don't speak so much about Srimati Radharani because it's a very, very confidential subject matter, very, very confidential subject matter. If you see the lectures also of so many speakers, there is very less that is spoken about Srimati Radharani. Once in a year, we get the license to speak about Srimati Radharani on her appearance day. But when it comes to Krishna, you will find so many lectures. It's not so confidential subject matter like that of Srimati Radharani. So Srimati Radharani is a very, very confidential subject matter. That's why it's more important.
So do we fast on Radha Ashtami also, the same way we
Yes.
fast for Janmashtami?
No, Radha Ashtami is Srimati Radharani is more merciful. We fast only till 12 noon.
Okay.
That is
Thank
15
you.
days after Janmashtami.
Okay. And I heard that for Radha Ashtami, it's very important to offer sesame oil. Is it?
Oh, I'm not aware of that. I will check it up and I'll let you know. I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay, then, since there are no more questions or comments, we will see you in the next class where we'll immediately start off with the first slok of chapter number 16 of Krishna. So, sanctions. Till then, have a nice weekend. Krishna consciousness. Vanchakalpatarovyaschа kripa sindhu vevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad
Jai.
Gita ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanva pranams.
Hare
So
Krishna.
Mataji, you said 12 o'clock, right, for Radha Ashtami as well?
Yes, 12 noon.
Okay. And then after that, we can eat anything, or it has to be Ekadashi Prashadam?
It can be grain prasad. Not anything means it should be prasad. You can have grain prasad.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dhanva
Okay,
pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sanam. Thank you.